Hey, I'm Bree and I sometimes upload to Instagram, sometimes upload to YouTube. This is video number 2, maybe 3. Keyword is sometimes. What I wanted to do today was I wanted to document where my collection is in the fall. We all know, if you've been doing this for any length of time, that your spring collection of plants is not what you have in the fall. Yeah, I usually typically lose a lot of plants over winter, mostly because until about a couple months ago, we have been living in a small north-facing apartment. It was about 600 feet, 2 main windows, and it was kind of set back and had some walls and then another wall. And as a result, we never had direct light, and so it took me a couple of years to figure out, how to grow plants in the apartment and just shove them against the window, otherwise they'd all die. And so as a result, I usually put all my rare plants in the best spots, like dropping $100 on you. I'm gonna put you in the best spot because you deserve it. And meanwhile, my Syngonium's gonna go in the corner because that's all you got. And I'm having to replace them, and that's just kind of, what happened. We had been planning on moving this spring, and so I kind of held off replacing all the plants that I was losing. I wanted to know about my new space before I started replacing. I did lose my job as a part of, COVID. I stopped buying plants this summer because the prices went out of control. Stopped collecting. You gotta do what you gotta do to get by. Yeah, so I'm a freelancer and I ended up finding some more work this fall, so we were finally able to move. We got the lovely south-facing apartment, wonderful western, what I always wanted, a bunch of windows for my plants, and a workspace that I could put my desks in with a bunch of plants, which I'm still under construction. The problem is when you have a bunch of plants growing in a very dark apartment and you move them into a south apartment, it's not easy. So in our old place, you'll probably hear me mention the old place over and over again. I tried to edit out whenever it became too repetitive. Anytime any of my plants would grow, it always was really small, and they just weren't getting the light that they needed. So now we're in this beautifully lit place, really stressed out about where do I put everybody. I gotta find the right spots. It's been a couple months of trying to figure out where everybody goes and moving things around. Jellybean is in the video. Jellybean he loves crashing any videos. But yeah, also I am now recording this on October 25th. Probably won't even be uploaded until November. I actually filmed this in September, like the first week, second week. Whenever I had some free time, I edited the video and I got it all down, and I was like, well, there's a lot of signs outside my window. I'll blur them out, it'll be no big deal. Yeah, it turns out blurring signs out is pretty tedious and it takes a lot of time. It's been taking longer to put this video together than I initially expected. I apologize for all the blurring, but also not an apology because I should be able to, protect my location and feel safe about uploading this video. Since filming, I've moved a lot of plants around, repotted a bunch, and I've also bought a lot more plants. I got some cool Hoyas. And yeah, hope you enjoy it. Thanks for your time. This is our main living area. We've been here about 4 weeks. So everybody's transitioning and probably yelling at me in their plant language. These have your great south-facing windows and our west-facing windows. This is where I'm going to be keeping all my anthuriums, right next to the humidifier. Right now they're on the kitchen table. I've been moving them during the day to get a little bit more light right before the western light really hits. Here I have my little Anthurium Regale. Got a little tip damage. I think it might have been from lack of light. So hopefully he likes this new spot. And then up here we have one of my crystals. This one just was growing asleep when we moved, so I think we have some transition stock up here. You know how it goes. I got this one from Urban Tropic, and they sent some really great plants. This was a leaf that it shipped with, and pretty minimal damage actually, considering how dark my last apartment was. But I was always able to keep it, relatively humid. I think its average is 60 when I run the humidifier. And then over here is my other order from Eden CP. A very, very sad queen. For the longest time, I actually had them in not the greatest medium, and then I switched everyone to mostly bark, and that's when they started growing leaves again. So this one put out this very, very jank leaf. I'm hoping it'll grow another one, and I'm probably gonna sell it just because I don't really want a really small guy necessarily, and the shelf space is pretty limited. Over here we have one of my Magnificums. This is actually another one I ordered from Eden CP before I knew about their whole scandal. This is the last of the original leaves that I ordered from, and it came with 4 and they all immediately died. So I think it was just shipping from Florida, transition shock. Put this leaf out about a year ago, and then it was growing this leaf when we moved. So it's a little bit smaller, and that's why I have it over here during the day, just to get some more light, and hopefully it'll adjust to this new space. I kept my humidity pretty low at my last apartment, so hopefully it's more of a lighting issue and medium issue more so than humidity. In the super cute pots from Arium Botanicals in Portland. Here is my queen, and definitely had to struggle with this one. Initially I had it in too thick of a medium, and then I switched out the medium again to mostly perlite and bark, and immediately started growing a new leaf, and then the leaf died. So I don't know exactly what happened. Like I said, I suspect that it was light, and then it finally grew this new leaf when we were moving, and it's a little janky. I don't know, it's probably just from being touched in the move, and it's not completely hardened off, but it's not bad. I don't mind the janky leaf. I'm hoping that it's gonna be happier here and able to put out maybe another leaf before year end. I would love that. And over here we have my other Magnificum, which this is the leaf it came with. It's huge, and I think it just needed more light, and so it never grew leaf. And then the moment I moved it in here, it started putting out this vine, which looks like it was cut, but definitely is growing this on its own, and then this leaf is dead, so I think I might need to chop it off. But I think it's a sign that it's happy in the light. We'll see. And then this is my last Anthurium, and I never moved it out of the moss because this is another one I got from Urban Tropic. It came with 2 very, very small leaves, and the moment I brought it home, shot out this huge leaf. Like, look how huge this thing is. It's massive. I was like, if it likes the moss, let's keep it in there. And then it never grew another leaf. And then it finally, I moved it here, cut off its small leaves, and then it shot this guy out. So moved it over here during the day to get some sun, and I had it sitting right here, and this leaf was touching the Hoya, so I think that's where this damage is from. Which again, I don't really care about. I'm more pleased that it's actually growing. Right here is my very, very huge Crimson Princess. I bought 2 6-inch pots in June, I believe, May. I only made a couple plant purchases this summer, and this is one of them. And I combined it into this 8-inch pot, and it's just loving life. Like, look at all this new growth. It's crazy. Like, all these little new leaves. I just love the pink. It's a little hard. So yeah, get a full view of this one. It's huge. It's got some green leaves, which I purposely put towards the back. I think it's fine. I love it. And then over here, my cat knocked these over last night, so this is in fresh dirt. My little spiral cactus. I got this in Austin, and I flew it home, actually. Had it for a 1.5 years, and it's never really done anything, but I'm hoping now that it will love its little new spot, as long as my cat doesn't knock it over too much. And over here we have my Philodendron melanochrysum cutting. This plant I ordered from Indonesia last September, October. It's always kind of struggled. Like, these are you'll see the mother plant. These are like half the size of the leaves that came with. And I honestly think it's just humidity. This plant, from what I understand from other people, it just needs more humidity, and I've never been really on top of my humidity. So I'm cutting it. It's pretty rooted. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with it. I'm gonna find a place to just pin it, but it has this new growth. See, I think it looks kind of fun in the window. And so over here I have my working space. I'm a designer and illustrator, so I have my giant tablet that I draw on and spend many hours on it. And I have a lot of my Hoyas over here at the moment. And right here is my Hoya Pubicalyx Nummularioides. I just got this one from Jesse James Studio. They're out in Kentucky, and they have great Hoyas. I love them so much. And Jesse's such a sweet person. Highly recommend checking them out. And then, this guy. So this is my Hoya rope. And he's a troublemaker. I first got my Hoya rope in a shipment from Great Britain early last year, and they were very hard to find at the time. They just need so much light. They need a lot of light, and I lost so many stems, and I would constantly find new stems and put them back, and they would die. But now we moved, and I'm finally seeing some new growth for the first time in a 1.5 years. So I always knew it needed more light, I just couldn't give it to it. So I'm happy that I can finally do that. And to the right over here, we have my Hoya Rebecca. This I ordered from Thai Luckies on Etsy. So I made 2 orders from them. I'll talk about the other ones, but this one I did expedient shipping on it, and it came in great shape. It has a ton of peduncles in it, constantly flowering. It's not super fragrant, but I'm really hoping it'll get sun stress in this new spot. And over here we have my Hoya Castaphila, which I need to move this actually. I'm not 100% yet. It has some whole scale that's dead, but I've had this for a year and a half, and it has a peduncle in it. It's flowered multiple times, so it's super happy, and it's grown a lot of leaves since I've owned it. I just wish it would grow more vines, but it just put out some new leaves and it's never really grown, so we'll see. Down here we have a couple plants that I am probably gonna be getting rid of. This is my Philodendron Ghost. My only other video, you can see me unboxing. It's just never done anything. It's actually lost more leaves, and I've always had it in bright light, and I don't know, it's just not happy. And it has 2 cuttings in here, but these second cuttings have never done anything. So I'm thinking I'm gonna give it more light, see if it grows some more, and then probably sell it. It's not really doing it for me. But these old mint leaves are very pretty. Over here is my Jose Beno. Sorry for my terrible pronunciation. I don't mean to offend anyone. But this used to be literally smacked up in my north-facing window, like all these leaves pressed up against the window. Could not give it enough light. And as I moved, the 2 leaves that weren't pressed up against the window immediately died. So I don't know if it's just these leaves were more adjusted to the light, but this also has no splash, so I'm not really sure. So I'm gonna see what happens with this new growth. I eventually want to get 2 vines going in this pot, so it's a little more full. And then over here we have my super lopsided bird of paradise. I can't really get a good shot of this. When I bought it, it my toe to curl it. And now it was, because my apartment was so small, I had to shove it in a corner, and it's very lopsided. But right now it's looking a little wilted and sad. It's definitely getting water, but yeah. So more philodendrons. This is my lemon lime philodendron. It used to be kind of near my north-facing window. It definitely needed more light. Part of it died, and then I've put a 4-inch pot of cuttings in it, and some of those grew, but since moving here, it's already like putting out a ton of new leaves. I think it's gonna thrive here, and I'm pretty excited about it. And I love this pot from Urban Outfitters. I think I'm definitely needing pots for several of these guys. It's on the to-do list, but pots are expensive. This is my Warocqueanum, another order from Dio Jesse James. When I first got it, this thing threw the world's biggest tantrum. Oh my gosh, it lost so many leaves. I just think these things hate transitioning. But I had it smack dab in my north window, water it maybe once every 4 or 5 weeks, and then it started growing. And it's even started growing even more now that I moved it here. It seems to love this new spot. Like you can see all of this is new growth. I think Doug Chamberlain has a video on one of his Curtia that just was under a grow light, and it got so long in one summer, and it looks beautiful. And I'm hoping it'll replace my desire for a string of hearts. I had a string of heart, and I got rid of it in the move just because it was floor length, but it was, oh my gosh, it was so messy. Like the first half a foot to a foot of vines were bald. It would constantly be losing leaves, even though it was directly in the window, constantly losing the flowers. It was such a pain to water. So I'm hoping that this fills that little hole in my heart for the string of hearts. And then over here was sold to me as a Hoya Taxinii, but now it's Hoya Spa something. I'm not sure if it likes as much sun as I'm giving it. We're gonna see. A lot of this is just trial to see if I can find the right spot for the room, but it's been putting out these new leaves. This plant did not ship well. It's one of those where it has such, because I bought it from Thailand and it has such a shallow roots that it was really hard to pot up. The root ball's so small, and then the leaves are right there, and it was really hard to make sure I covered the dirt and not the leaves. I think it lost quite a few leaves just from not necessarily being able to keep all the roots in the happiest of positions, but it's flowered a couple times. It has a couple peduncles. And so down here I have Aaustralis Lisa. This, I bought 4 or 5 different orders of single cuttings that were rooted, and I combined them. and some of the sellers, they were not very rooted, so all of those died. But there's a really, I'll put her name down below, she sells really healthy Lisa cuttings, or Lisa rooted cuttings. I combine them and they're doing really well. I'd say I combined them around June, July, and then it didn't grow at all. And then the moment I move and put it in this corner, it is flippin' exploding. All those new leaves are since moving 3 or 4 weeks ago. So once it gets to a certain length, I'm gonna trellis it. This is the one plant I will trellis. I think it's gonna look fantastic. This is my philodendron painted lady. I bought two cuttings from one seller on Etsy, another cutting from RG at Botanica's US, which is where I also got my queen anthurium from. So the thing is about the painted lady, oh, there's some thrip damage. I've had thrips so many times, guys, it's crazy. The variegation fades, and I really wanted to just fill up this trellis and with the painted leaves, and they never got very big. Thinking of just throwing it out for a while here and then probably selling, because I'm not too much of a fan of just the green leaves down here. But the new leaves they're really pretty. I love the pink stems. Like, they're pretty when they come out, but it's just too bad they revert. And I don't know if that's because I was in a dark apartment, and if it's in enough light it'll stay. Like, you can kind of see the faint paint markings. I'm gonna see what happens over the next couple months. And over here is my Hoya Calyx Splash Royal Hawaiian. Got this guy on Etsy, another one where I got 2 6-inch pots and combined them, because I want to make a lovely long trailing plant out of this and hang it. And oh, looks like we got some growth. That's exciting. This is one of the only Hoyas that hasn't done anything moving, so I'm a little surprised by that. It seemed to grow quite a bit over winter, and then it stopped. I'm not quite sure what the deal is, but it was happy in my old place. But maybe it likes to grow in the cooler months. I love these thick leaves. I cannot wait until it trails. Absolutely gorgeous. I love big plants, like that's my whole thing. So the reason I got into Hoyas, I was down in Portland on a trip to buy plants, and I went to a local branch there which sells like antiques and really beautiful furniture and plant. And I was talking to the owner, and he went down to an estate sale. He found this massive Carnosa Splash, and it was probably 30 or 40 years old. It was on display in his store, and it just was draped over this entire wall, and it looked beautiful. And I was like, I need that. And then that's how I got into Hoyas. And so I was really determined on getting a Hoya Carnosa Splash that was really large. But at the time last year, they were kind of hard to find. And now this guy has some sort of fungus, I don't know. I was gonna ask the Hoya groups on Facebook for some ID help, because I sprayed it some copper fungicide, but it doesn't seem to be working, and now there's some black, which could be sun stress. Like, I think I might need to move both of these guys. So with all these Hoyas, these were actually smack dab in my north-facing window, so they were pretty used to direct continuous light. I thought they would transition well, but who knows. Yeah, there's also some princess in here. I don't know, this is another one where I got 2 6-inches and I combined them. And as you can see, my whole goal is to get all my trailing plants off the floor eventually. So I'm thinking maybe I'll put these on a bench or hang them. These are hanging pots from Ingus and Celeste. They're an Australian brand, and they're really beautiful. They do very minimal pottery, but they have drainage holes, which I really like. And I'd like to put these on either hang them, put them on a bench, or get a clothing rack and hang these and have these eventually just dangle. They're thick wax you will use. Also, if you hear my boyfriend in the background gaming, I apologize. And other dusk Hoyas. So this is other 2 plants I ordered from Thai. Look, this one came in expedient shipping. Perfect shape, didn't lose a single leaf. This is Hoya Sagillatis. And it's probably hard to tell in dark light, but it actually started out as this green. Oh, hello. Hi, kitty. It actually gets its older leaves can get sun stressed, so it's completely, I had it smack in the north window, completely turned purple. It's beautiful. And actually since moving, it didn't really grow at all at my old place, but it's put out these 2 new shoots, so. And then over here, next to Jelly Bean, you're in the way. Okay. Hoya Memoria Gracilis. Don't worry, they don't chew on my plants. I ordered this from Thailand in normal shipping. I think it spent 19 days in the mail. I lost half of it. I mean, some of this, I cut off so much, but there was more I probably needed to cut off. I just never did because it was so depressing. But a lot of it survived, and actually it put out a lot of new growth at my old place. I was really surprised. And even since moving here, it's put out this is all new growth in the past 4 weeks. And this flower is amazing. It smells like caramel. It's so crazy. And then it's putting out this new other peduncles. From what I've heard, these grow pretty fast. I love it. I think it likes the new sun spot. Over here, I have, actually, this is one of my few calatheas that I still have left. Kind of gave up on calatheas after a while because they're just a lot of work. This peacock, super happy, probably needs to be repotted. I think it loves this spot, so pretty happy about that. Up here we have some troublemakers. What do you call them? Satin pothos. It was 3 6-inch pots that I put in a 10-inch pot, and I never really had a spot for it at my old place. It was a pretty dark shelf, and it did not grow. It lost a lot of leaves. I had a really bad breakout of mealybugs in my apartment. Some pretty strong pesticides actually ended up killing a couple of my pothos, and my sea blue just heartbreaking. I didn't know, I just wanted to get rid of them. And I did get rid of them, I got rid of them. So it did stress this guy out, and I ended up I rinsed him off and moved him outside for half summer. Still didn't grow that much, but now I'm finally seeing some new growth. So I think it might like this new spot. And then to the right, my other victim of mealybugs. I don't know if this is the right spot for it. This desperately needs to be repotted. Its roots are pretty bare up there. But I bought this from a local shop called Cultivate Propagate, which didn't survive the pandemic, which is sad, but you know, happens. But it is putting out some new leaves since moving, so I think it likes this spot. And of course I find them covered in mealies, so having to keep my eye on it. But yeah, it's actually put out several of these little vines since moving, so I think it likes. And you can also see some of those are dead, need to be cut off, so we'll see. But I love this. I have a pot for it. I just need to pot it up. Over here we have my pride and joy and the thing that stresses me out so much, my fiddle leaf fig. I bought this when it was maybe this tall. It fit in the front seat of my car. Like, that's insane. It loved my old apartment. It was in, like I said, north facing windows, no direct sun. It grew like crazy. So a couple of things happened. It's gotten thrips twice. I sprayed it with a really strong pesticide when the mealybug outbreak happened because I wanted to cover all my bases. I don't think it handled it well. It also has had spider mites. I've had to treat this guy so many times. And it got really big to the point where it lost so many of its lower leaves this summer, and they're still going. Now this is going through transition era, of course. When I first bought it, it took 6 months before it grew. It started growing again. So some of these leaves are massive though. Like, they're bigger than my arm. It's crazy. I love it. I'm hoping it'll like this new place. It's just so big and beautiful. I really want to branch it. I'm nervous though about cutting it. You can tell from the back, pretty lopsided to the left and not much growth on the right. So I don't really, maybe cut it this right here. I'm not sure, but I really want to make sure it's even. It's definitely leaning towards the left, and that's just how it was sitting in my room, and I tried to rotate it. Things happen. So yeah, we'll see. We have my giant Crystallinum. This is also my unboxing videos. Look at how these leaves liked transitioning. They hated me. Those are the original two leaves that came with in the unboxing. They didn't handle it. And so it grew this leaf in February, I want to say. Where it was in my apartment, I always brushed up against this when I was watering everybody. So I think this is actually just from me touching it constantly. And it grew another leaf. And where this was in my apartment, it was by my couch, and my cat jumped through it and ripped off the newly forming leaf, and it ended up on the ground, and I was so sad. Yeah, that was tragic. But this summer it grew this massively huge. I love it. It's my favorite Anthurium, and it's perfect. It's so healthy. I water it with distilled water every 2 weeks, and yeah. Over here, we have my Hoya Aaustralis. This was I purchased 2 6 inches. Back when I purchased this last year, it was pretty hard to find full Australises online. So these were pretty small when I purchased them, and they've grown quite a bit. And I actually just built this trellis. The trellis is actually inspired by Betsy Begonia. If you watch her Hoya tour from last year, she has this very meter-tall Hoya Australis. They go pretty fast if you give them the right lighting. I think fill up this trellis pretty quickly. Also have some new growth. To my right, I have my Hoya Clarinervium, and it just put out this leaf. It's really interesting because this I bought this from Camilla's house of plants. I don't think she really sells anymore, but the leaves it came with are so much thinner than the new leaf. The new leaves, it's grown since in my ownership, so much thicker veins. And this got some pretty bad thrip damage. A lot of these have some damage signs. I think this is one of the plants that just suffered from not having as much light as I could give it. And this is actually one of the few anthuriums that I still give regular tap water. So I give most of my anthuriums distilled water. I always gave it tap water and it didn't really seem to get brown tips. Like most of this is bug damage. I just figured I'd keep it on tap water and it seems to be fine. And then over here we have another new plant of mine. This is Hoya Deykeae that I ordered from Studio Jesse James. Yes, they've been growing them all summer. Finally sold them and it didn't handle transition very well. There's a lot of shipping damage on this, which is fine. I don't mind shipping damage, like that happens. A lot of broken leaves. Well, I've heard they can be a pain. I'm not sure yet. I've heard to opt on not watering it. I'm not sure if I want to keep it here or move it to more light. The reason I'm thinking about moving it is because of how happy these 3 Hoyas are. Like it's crazy. So this is my Hoya Matilda. I bought it as 2 small 4-inch pots in May, I believe. I'm always sitting on Etsy and seeing what pops up, and it didn't really grow at all. And then the moment I move here, it put this out. It's growing right here, has new growth here. Like it loves it. So it's not as splashy, but I'm really hoping it'll become nice and long and trailing. This is a Hoya Parasitica splash. This is 2 cuttings that I purchased from Thailand. This was before they did heat treatment. It did get some minor damage, looks like, in transit, but since moving, it's put out this, shot this out, it shot this out. This whole thing is new. This is new. There's a little baby leaf on there. This is all new. It loves the spot. And I wouldn't be surprised if we lose some older leaves, but oh, this is a new leaf. Again, my theory is that because these were grown in Thailand, the UV rays are just so much stronger down there that it can handle my weak ass northern hemisphere direct light. So I'm definitely experimenting. I don't exactly know what I'm doing. I've only started really collecting Hoyas in the past year. Yeah, we'll see. I believe it's Hoya Sarawak. So I ordered 2 plants from Thailand. There's 2 eBay sellers that are always selling these massive Hoya specimens. Unfortunately, I ordered this and a giant Hoya Eskimo. They do the bidding system, and so I bidded on this and the Hoya Eskimo, and they kind of share a shop, I believe, so they'll ship your plants together if that happens. Just something to be super aware of, I'm sure you've heard of it, is they're doing heat treatments on imports now. So I bought this, I believe, July, and I bought this June. So they didn't do heat treatment on this one. This one survived. Hoya Eskimo just shriveled because of the heat treatment. I opened the box and I was about to leave town, so I threw him into some moss and left because I was leaving town for a camping trip, and I didn't photograph anything, so I didn't get a refund, which is kind of upsetting. Yeah, this is not what it looks like pictured. All this damage is from heat treatment. So I would not be surprised if eventually all of these leaves die off, especially once winter hits. But since moving, we have 2 new shoots. So these have started pushing out, and I have a feeling it's a little bit of a slower grower, but I'm okay with that. And if it puts out some more leaves before all these die off, I'll also be okay with that.